Okay, so Hardin, as a crucial part of his first argument, which is the argument just to the claim that population controls are absolutely necessary for overpopulation to be avoided, makes the claim that it's always individually advantageous for each individual to have more kids. And the idea here is that if this is true, people are always going to, no matter what, keep having more and more kids. And obviously, if people are going to keep having more and more kids no matter what, then we're going to have overpopulation. But that's way too simplistic to really get any good sort of argument going. For one, it's just obviously false. There are a lot of people for whom it's not advantageous to have kids. So the first problem is, the biggest problem, it's false. In a lot of cases. For example, a couple living in downtown Manhattan or lower Manhattan, where it's way too expensive to have any more kids, to have more than one kid, or to have any kids at all, it's not in their interest to have more kids if they like living there. If they want to have more kids, they have to do something really terrible and horrible, like move to Jersey. So for them, there's plenty of people, they will be among the plenty of people for whom it is not advantageous. So because of the social situation, or because of their individual priorities, for many people it will not be advantageous to have more kids. There's actually another class of people who we should bring in here, which is, of course, the women. For a woman, child rearing or childbirth, being pregnant and then having a kid, is the most dangerous thing she can do in her life. As you have more than, after the first birth, the risks of complications usually go down in most respects. But still, a woman, especially where there are not modern medical facilities and techniques, is putting her life at risk every time she decides to have a kid. So it's very easy to see that in a lot of cases, it might not be worth it to a woman to be having another kid. If she already has two, then it might not at all be rational to risk her life for a third. Although, obviously, for some people it may be. So, for at least these cases, it's not going to be individually advantageous for people to have more kids. So it looks like this premise is just straight up false. We can't assume that people are just going to, no matter what, go on having kids. But we want to be better to Hardin's premise than that, or Hardin's argument than that. We don't want to just toss this out, because there is something to this. But the way to think about it is to be more universal. Because Hardin's probably thinking, well, people in an agrarian society where if you have a farm, kids are free labor. It doesn't cost all that much to have more kids, so it's always going to be in your advantage. But again, you can pull up the same sorts of problems. So we can be more universal about it and get a premise that isn't false and that will do the work that Hardin thinks it will, or at least most of it. So we just start with the idea that rational people, and this is something that's widely assumed about the nature of rationality, rational people do what things are most beneficial. In other words, for a rational person, when the benefits of doing something, say X, outweigh the costs, a rational person will do X. right? So this is a general principle. If it is more beneficial for you to study for your exam than to go out with your friends, then, and the costs are, of course, you not having fun, you being bored to tears, etc., then if you are rational, you will stay in and study for your exam. If the benefits of studying for your exam do not outweigh the cost that you would be giving up, then it would be irrational for you to stay home and study for your exam. So this is a general claim about how rational people behave. Well, we can now just apply this to childbirth. All we have to say is that when people are rational with respect to childbirth, if the marginal costs of let's do it this way. The marginal benefits, sorry, okay? So this is just an implication of the general rational principle. When it comes to kids, if the marginal benefit of having an additional child outweighs the marginal cost, then a rational person will have that child. So you can see that this is universally applicable. Our couple that lives in Lower Manhattan will find it more costly to have the additional child because it would entail doing something horrible, like moving to Jersey, and therefore would not be rational if they had the child. If our mother decided that the risk to her life was worth it, then it would be rational for her to have the child. And all sorts of other situations which affect whether or not people want to have children can be captured in this. So this is going to apply to everyone across the board. We don't have to assume anything about how people in agrarian societies behave. We don't have to assume that people who were thinking about aiding are somehow any different in their rationality from the rest of us. This just says that if it is rational for them in their situation to have kids, then they'll have more